The lecture hall fell silent as Professor Sienna adjusted her collar for the third time in as many minutes. The fabric felt restrictive against her throat, a sensation she hadn't experienced in decades. Around her, 200 alien students from 17 different species sat in tiered seats, their various optical organs fixed on the humans standing at the podium. "Feels tight after all these years," she muttered, fingers tracing the edge of the crisp white collar that marked her as a Voidwalker, one of humanity's most decorated deep space explorers. A Zythian student in the front row, its crystalline structure refracting the lecture hall's light into rainbow patterns, raised a tentacle. "Professor, is it true that uniform is mythical? That humans wore such garments when they first breached a silence barrier?" Sienna smiled, a gesture that still unnerved some of the more insectoid species present. "Mythical is a strong word, Krell, but yes, this is an authentic Voidwalker uniform from Earth's first extragalactic expedition. The one I wore when we made contact with the Consortium." A ripple of disbelief passed through the classroom. The Consortium, that ancient collective of civilizations that had ruled the known universe for 10,000 years, had considered humanity nothing more than a curious anomaly when they first arrived. Primitive, aggressive, short-lived. Was before the humans proved everyone wrong. Finley entered the lecture hall through the back door, his boots clicking against the polished floor. He wore the same uniform, though his bore scars that Sienna's pristine version lacked: a burn mark across the left shoulder, a tear hastily repaired along the right sleeve. He was late, as always, but Sienna had long ago stopped being annoyed by her old partner's timing. "Sorry I'm late," Finley said, making his way down the aisle. "Got held up at the memorial service for the Andromeda crew." The students watched him with the same fascinated horror they always did. Finley had lost his right eye during the silence barrier incident, and he'd refused all cybernetic replacements, preferring to wear a simple black patch. It made him look like something out of the ancient human pirate holovids that had become inexplicably popular across the galaxy. "Class," Sienna said, gesturing to Finley. "Many of you know Commander Finley from his guest lectures. He's here today to help me explain why the Consortium initially classified these uniforms as mythical artifacts rather than standard military dress." A Bravaxian student, its three heads conferring quietly with each other, spoke up. "We studied in Xena history that the Consortium believed humans had fabricated their entire military structure, that such organization was impossible for a species so young." "Correct," Finley said, leaning against Sienna's desk. "They'd been watching Earth for 300 years. Seeing our wars, our chaos, our inability to unify even our own planet. When we showed up at the Consortium gates wearing matching uniforms, following protocols, presenting diplomatic credentials, they thought it was an elaborate hoax." Sienna pulled up a holographic display, showing the grainy footage from that first contact. There she was, younger, terrified but hiding it while standing beside Finley and 42 other humans in identical uniforms. Behind them, the ESS Prometheus hung in space, a vessel the Consortium had dismissed as impossible for their technology level, right up until it had successfully traversed the silence barrier. "The barrier," Sienna continued, her voice taking on the practiced rhythm of a lecturer who'd told this story 1,000 times, "was supposed to be absolute. The Consortium had tried to breach it for millennia. Their greatest scientific minds, their most advanced technology, all of it failed. But humans didn't know it was impossible." Finley interjected with a grin. "Nobody told us we couldn't do it." A nervous laugh rippled through the students. It was an old joke, but it still carried weight. Humanity's ignorance of their own limitations had become legendary throughout the galaxy. Sienna adjusted her collar again, and this time she caught herself doing it. "You know why this feels tight?" she asked the class. "Because when I first put this uniform on, I was 23 years old. I weighed 58 kilograms. I'd trained for 6 years, studying xenobiology, quantum mechanics, diplomatic protocols. I was convinced I was ready for anything." She paused, her eyes distant. "I wasn't ready for the barrier. None of us were." The hologram shifted, showing the Prometheus approaching the silence barrier, that region of space where reality itself seemed to scream. Ships that entered never returned. Probes went silent. Even light behaved strangely near its boundaries. "The Consortium told us we'd die," Finley said quietly. "They told us to turn back, that humanity wasn't ready, that we didn't understand what we were attempting. They were probably right, but we went anyway," Sienna said, "because that's what humans do. We see the impossible and we take it as a challenge." A Kaltorian student, its fur bristling with anxiety, asked, "What was it like?" Inside the barrier, Sienna and Finley exchanged a glance. Even after 70 years, that shared look contained volumes of unspoken memories. It was like drowning in light, Sienna said softly. Every molecule of your body pulling in different directions. Time stopped meaning anything. I could feel the universe trying to unmake us, to reduce us to our component atoms. And then Sienna did something incredible, Finley added, something the consortium's greatest minds hadn't thought of in 10,000 years. I got angry, Sienna said with a slight smile. I refused to die. I refused to let my crew die. I grabbed the navigation controls and I forced the ship forward, through sheer stubborn human will. The hologram showed the Prometheus emerging on the other side of the barrier, its hull scorched but intact. The date stamp read, March 15, 2087 when we came out. Finley said, the consortium was waiting. They'd positioned observers, expecting to document our destruction. Instead, they saw us, alive, triumphant, wearing these mythical uniforms. Sienna adjusted her collar one last time. This feels tight because I'm not that young explorer anymore. I'm 93 years old. I've spent 70 years teaching, writing, trying to explain to the galaxy what humanity is capable of. But sometimes I put on this uniform, and I remember what it felt like to be told something was impossible. She looked out at her students' beings from worlds humanity had only dreamed of in those early days. That consortium learned that day that humanity doesn't accept impossibility. We don't accept limitations. We see the universe not as it is, but as it could be, and we'll tear down every barrier, cross every void, defy every expectation to prove that we belong among the stars. The lecture hall erupted in a cacophony of alien hums, percussive thumps, and crystalline chimes. Finley caught Sienna's eye and smiled, still inspiring them after all these years. Feels tight, she repeated, touching her collar, but I'll never take it off, because some uniforms weren't just clothing. They were proof that humanity had arrived, and they weren't going anywhere.